Hello YouTube, in today's video we're going to be going over Xilonen, her kit and how to build her as the best support you possibly can, her weapon selections and also how much she buffs an average Neuvillette and Arlecchino team. I was planning on making this video on the day of her release because I didn't end up building her on day 1, but I wanted to take some time to properly test her out and how much she actually can buff your Arlecchino, Neuvillette, Navia, etc. and provide my information with more detail. So let's get into it without wasting any more time. First, let's talk about her kit, Xilonen's normal attacks. They are very basic normal attacks and let's be honest, you're probably not gonna level them up if you're not building her as a main DPS, so for a support build, these are not exactly required. However, the animations are pretty cool, I have to agree. Moving on to her elemental skill, U-Haul's Scratch. Now, as you can see, there is a wall of text for her elemental skill and it's a lot of text honestly, okay? So let me explain it in the simplest way possible. Assume her elemental skill to be the source of her resistance shred into her kit. Now, in order to activate that resistance shred, you need to at least have 2 characters belonging to patch elements, that is pyro, hydro, cryo, or electro. Depending on the elements you have in your party, the source samplers, which are Xilonen's source for reducing resistance to elements for her kit, get colored in. Now, in order to activate these colored or dark colored source samplers, what you have to do is you have to press skill on her and then do 2 normal attacks. I'm not gonna go into details about explaining how it increases her night soul points to max level and then it activates. Just remember, you press skill or E and you press normal attack twice. You press Q if you want to heal your party members, you don't press Q if you don't want to do that. It's that simple. And boom, you have 36% resistance shred on enemies depending on the elements you have on your source samplers. And also, if you're running the Cinder City Scroll set, which let's be honest, you probably are running, you also receive 40% of elemental damage bonus for all the party members, or the elemental reaction you do, including Geo and that particular element. Here's an example of Xilonen activating Arlecchino's damage. You press skill on Arlecchino to apply pyro. You press skill on Xilonen, run into the enemies, which triggers a crystallized reaction to activate the artifact set, and then you do 2 normal attacks on Xilonen to activate both the source samplers from Arlecchino and Bennett. Also, in order to verify if your buffs are active on Xilonen or not, once you switch out of Xilonen, you can observe the circular disco disc under your legs. It just says that your buffs are active. That's pretty much it. Finally, let's move on to Xilonen's Burst. Xilonen's Burst is capable of healing your party members when you have more than 2 patch elements or 2 patch elements. In the case where you have only 1 or less than 1 patch elements in your team comp, Xilonen's Burst deals damage 3 times. It does not heal your party members. Finally, let's move on to the talent raising priority. For a general support build, skill takes priority number 1. If you want heals, you should level up the burst, and normal attacks can be left at level 1. But ideally, you want to make them all 666 first and then proceed forward from that. Alright, now let's finally talk about Xilonen's weapons. Peak Patrol Song is her best in slot option, no doubt about it. But for a free-to-play option, you can run selections such as the Natlan Craftable Weapon, you can also run Cinnabar Spindle, and you can also run Favonius. I think this is also a good time where I should be mentioning that her ER requirement, despite having a 60 cost burst, are not exactly that high. You're okay with somewhere in between 120 to 140 ER. Like, I have no problem getting my burst off of cooldown with 105 ER. It's because the 4-piece Cinder City Scroll set actually provides you 12 energy because Xilonen triggers the Night Soul Burst twice in her entire 14-second rotation. It's one of her passive talents. And so yeah, it's actually quite easy to build hers for energy recharge. And when it comes to defense, how much defense you should actually be running on Xilonen, it's also quite easy to target because none of her buffs / debuffs that she provides on enemies scale off of defense. The only thing that actually requires defense is a healing. So general case scenario, if you're running Patrol Song, you should be running 3200 defense to get the maximum 25.6% elemental damage bonus. But if you're running an F2P option, for example Cinnabar Spindle or something else, I ideally would recommend somewhere around 2500 to 2700 ballpark, so you at least have decent amount of healing. Next, let's move on to her artifact sets. There is only one possible option you want to build Xilonen as, it's a Cinder City Scroll set. And for the 1% population that is planning on building DPS Xilonen, yeah, you still cannot escape the domain because you need Obsidian Codex. So just please go ahead, farm the Natlan domain, you'll be happy. Xilonen is also one of the easiest characters to build because the stats you're targeting is 3200 defense if you have the signature. If not, then don't worry about it, okay? The combinations for the main set of the artifacts can be defense, defense and healing bonus, or ER, defense and healing bonus, depending on which stat you're lacking. With that all being said, now finally, let's move on to the constellations. I already made a video comparing C0 Xilonen and upgrading her to C6 and comparing all the buffs she provides throughout every single constellation. The video link is down in the description. You can check it out, or it's up there on the card somewhere. But I will only say this very shortly, that C2 is a very good stopping point if you are going for early constellations. So yeah, that's pretty much everything you need to know about Xilonen to have the best support Xilonen on your account. So if you pull for Xilonen, be happy, because I'm about to show you how much you can actually buff my Arlecchino. A key thing to remember is that my Arlecchino is C6, so the damage numbers are definitely gonna be higher, and later on in the video, I will be borrowing my friend's free-to-play Nivelette and showing you a side-by-side comparison of how much damage different Xilonen actually makes on the team. So stay tuned for that. And here is Arlecchino for you guys. Now let's have a side-by-side comparison of Nivelette's damage increase without Xilonen and with Xilonen in the team. I will also be putting the damage numbers for Xilonen C0R1, Xilonen Favge, Kazuha Favge, and just Nivelette damage, so you can actually have a better idea of how much damage your Nivelette will be doing in an actual Nivelette Farina, Kazuha and Xilonen team comp. Now let me answer the question, should you pull for Xilonen or not? In a simple word, the answer is yes. In a more complex manner, Kazuha's buff and Xilonen buffs are very similar and different at the same time. Kazuha has the ability to double swirl, while Xilonen cannot do so. Xilonen, however, provides buffs for longer duration, and Kazuha doesn't exactly do that. His buffs last only for 6 to 8 seconds, whereas Xilonen does it for 15 seconds. In a nutshell, both Xilonen and Kazuha have their pros and cons. But in my opinion, why settle for either Kazuha or Xilonen when you can just actually have them both? With that being said, thank you so much for watching the video. If you found this video interesting and entertaining and you learned something from this video, please consider subscribing. It really helps me out a lot. And one last thing, I stream most night on Twitch at twitch.tv/Strikner. Do check me out. I would love to have you there. Peace.